Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the many uses and interpretations and applications of the word racism. Now, before say 2009, 2010, they're around that time, or around the time of the global economic panic. During that time, or before that time, you'd see the word racism, but you kind of hardly ever see it. It wasn't around that much, and it wasn't assumed to be a uniquely white problem. I had seen it around, but but not to the huge extent it sort of became and how it's used today. So we need to understand, I think, some of the various I suppose you'd call them definitions. The globalists avoid definitions because then that locks them into a position. So they want to use vague terms. You're a Nazi, because that's something that puts you down, but gives them infinite freedom as to what they really mean by Nazi and how they can apply it. And the word racist is the same thing. It's kind of open-ended for them, but a serious put down to whoever they're targeting. Nobody wants to be called a racist. I noticed that the people that are called racists and Nazis, I mean, you'd really struggle to understand what's meant by that. Some local people in England complain about all the hotels in the town being filled up with illegal aliens, and they even complain about a question, and the media portrays them neo-Nazis, Nazis, swastikas were seen, racists, skinheads, neo-Nazis, and they go absolutely to town on these people. And of course, these terms are used as a form of social control by the globalist cabal. And they've certainly penetrated the black activist organizations with agitators and all sorts of people that are helping the so-called minority groups in the West anyway, blacks being among them. And blacks, the reason blacks are the primary sort of source of this is they don't get that much mileage with, say, I don't know, Chinese people, for example. Blacks are the ones where they get the most mileage in pushing the race hustle. And it is a hustle because that's where the biggest social outcomes and economic outcomes differences are. So by using the simple method of if there's differences in outcomes, it must mean that there's racism there. So also other simple things like, well, the president of the United States is a white male, therefore all white males or all white people have privilege. What is everybody president of the United States? Or because Bill Gates is rich and he's white, that means everyone's as rich as Bill Gates. And the very notion is absurd. But I wanted to talk about the various types of subtypes and splinter types of racism that allegedly exist, or where the definition around, or the use and application and thus quasi-definition of these things is derived. So I wanted to talk a bit about that and see where we go. For example, black society in Africa, and again in the United States, the Caribbean, and in England now, the black society, they still have, even if they've been out of Africa for 400 or 500 years, they still have very much the African tribal view on how resources are to be shared. So the village or the community owns all the resources, and therefore everything must be shared more or less equally. Now, it doesn't work out exactly equally, but the idea of sharing. This is why black sports people, the black boxers, and that were making gazillion, Muhammad Ali is a case in point, Sugar Ray Robinson and these guys, they made a lot of money boxing, but they were stony broke when they died, or were often stony broke. I saw a documentary on Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali, as he changed his name, and given the vast sums of money he made, I was quite shocked that at times he was on the bones of his ass, in spite of all the money he'd made. And part of the reason for this, and if not a primary reason, was he provided a lot of employment for friends, relatives, and hangers-on. Buying them cars and giving them lots of money and gifts and this sort of thing. He was certainly a generous man with that, with that community and his immediate sort of black tribal thing, and so he just absolutely pissed through the money that he made, and he made a lot of it. I mean, he was certainly an elite athlete. One of the, in terms of the days that the times he was active, he'd be one of the highest paid athletes of all time. And yet, here he was, as I say, at times stony broke. So the black idea of the tribal, the village, the sharing, the commune, if you will, and private ownership isn't consent. You respond to the immediate need of the day. You wait till you're hungry, then you go out hunting for the antelope, sort of it is in Africa, and so they live very much like that. Again, hundreds of years outside of Africa. Seems incredible, if not impossible, but not every single one of them does. I'm sure. Supreme Court Justice Thomas doesn't live that way, but many do, and so and these are the ones that the globalist agitators have infiltrated and used as pawns to attack white people and attack white society. They're very useful for that, and the globalists know it and use them quite ruthlessly for the sole purpose of attacking white society. If you think for a minute, or the black people think for a minute, that these globalists care about them or give even a flying fuck about them, then the minute that the globalists achieve their objectives in crushing white society, assuming that they ever do, they're not that far off it now, really. Then they'll blacks will be dropped like hot cake. Hot potato. We don't need you anymore. You have no purpose anymore in our grand scheme of things. So you can just crawl off into the hole and die, and that'll be how they'll be treated when that day comes. So anyway, this idea of community sharing. So what is racism? Well, racism is, I, as a black person, I don't have the house and the car and the this and the that, or the waterfront property. My kids aren't going to an expensive school, that's the thing. But you white boy do have that. So therefore, you have it and I don't. And so that's a different outcome, A, which makes you racist, but B, you're not sharing it with me, and you should share it with me. And the fact you're not makes you a racist again. So the not sharing in the way that the least, the poorest black people perceive their wealth or position or status in society. Why won't you share what you have? And this is very much a black thing, and you see it even in the indigenous natives of Australia. They have that same thing, that if one of their tribe, who may even be half black or quarter black, one of them gets a job, say in the local supermarket, the whole tribe expects now that they can come into that supermarket and get free groceries because a member of the tribe works there. Therefore, you share what you have. And the idea of personal possessions and private property, planning ahead, this sort of thing, is quite alien to them, and they don't understand that. So in the case of the black guy, well, you're not sharing what you have with me, so because you won't give it to me, I'll have to take it. But now your evil white oppressor laws then say I'm a criminal because of that. And then you try and put me in prison, which makes you a racist again. You're a racist for arresting me, you're a racist for taking me to court, and a racist for putting me in prison. So just a simple interaction there of looking at what white boy has and won't share or refuses to share, because the concept of private ownership isn't fully grasped or perceived as relevant. It's capitalism, it's therefore fascism, or that sort of thing. Again, globalist agitators infiltrating the black activist groups would encourage that view. Again, useful to them in attacking white people and guilt-tripping white people. So you won't share what you have, what I don't. You won't share what you have. Then when I try and take it, which I should be justifiably allowed to because you won't share it voluntarily, when I go and take it, Then white man police force comes along and arrests me, and then I go to white man's court, and then I get put in white man's prison. And so fuck me. I mean that's like what five racisms all in just a single pass, effectively. So we need to understand that these concepts of racism are growing and developing and are really going off into a kaleidoscope of subsets. Another one. This is one I came across recently. It was explained to me by a white lesbian in a diversity and inclusion department that by having standards such as pass and fail an exam or arrive at a work on time or arrive at the meeting on time or arrive at the meeting with your notes prepared, all these things. These are white things. These are white standards. And by having standards that minorities may not meet is in itself an act of racism. It's better to have no standards, then no one can fail to meet a standard that doesn't exist, therefore no racism. So you're looking at someone that explains it to you, go, what? That's the insanity. These are the same people that demand lots of goodies for free and they want the goodies to be there. Why do you think the shelves in the shop are full of food and groceries? Well, maybe not so much now, but typically full of. Why do you think that the things work? The buses appear and the trains appear and why do you think that happens? How does that happen? Is it by some form of magic? Because people have to do it. There has to be organization, structure, invention, technology. People assigned to do the jobs and they do them well. The guy's job of fixing the sewer pipes or fixing the electrical wires. What if the guy just decides, I don't want to adhere to that standard. I don't think I'll bother. And then, you little HR department, diversity, inclusion, lesbian, then you can't charge your phone or look at your laptop, computer and post bile on Twitter or something. What do you think about that? Oh, no. It needs to happen to someone. It should happen to the Nazis, not to me. I'm morally too pure for that. So you get these sort of attitudes and it's all, again, all over. Now, I'll even come back to times in the past when, well, not that long in the past, where the board of directors were hassling me to, I'm the EVP at this particular place, hassling me to hire some black people. And I'm saying, look, there's hardly any black people applying. The ones that do have like zero qualifications. So why would I want to hire someone who's not qualified? At the same time as they pester me to hire unqualified people or black people, they're also pestering me about getting the results, making sure that the sales and the profits and the all this sort of stuff, the inventories I'm getting hassled on a whole range of subjects. So why would I hire unqualified people to achieve these very optimistic objectives that the board wants met? So anyway, I hire some black people, and I'm thinking of one guy here where he just couldn't arrive on time. I just couldn't get him to apply himself. He was always goofing off and arriving in shorts and t-shirts, and it was a nice guy. I quite liked him actually. I mean, he was but fucking useless, worse than useless. And in the end, the same people who were pestering me to hire a black person were pestering me to get rid of him. I thought, fuck yeah, have a but he just couldn't seem to get it in his head that you had to meet certain standards before. For example, he was because he was such a good talker. I thought I'll put him in out of operations and into sales, and I did this as an effort to try and sort of rescue his employment. Try and get him to sort of show some results so I could get the others, get the people on my back to get out of my face. But so I put him into sales. So this is your job for example, simplifying a bit here, but your job is to sell 10 widgets a month, whatever. And everyone's got that. And some of the better people, and I gave him the lowest sort of level to stand. I gave him the lowest standard to meet, so he had a lower standard than any of the white boys, and even threw him some customers to sort of get him started. But he why do I have to do 10? Why can't I just do whatever I want to do and that's good enough? Why do I have to do that? And I just couldn't get him to accept responsibility for it. And he just didn't see why. So, well, why should you get paid? If you're refusing to do the work or you don't care or don't give a shit, why should you be paid? Doesn't it work both ways? Oh, no, you've got so much and, it's a big rich company. Why can't you just give it to me as a sort of a handout? No. You actually have to work for it. You have to produce a result. Everybody here does. You too. But he just wouldn't get it. Just couldn't get it. Whether he refused to or was lacking in the confidence of taking that responsibility or a mix of both. I don't know. But that sort of illustrates the wider point. But his conclusion was, if you force me to meet a standard and do work and produce something, you are in effect a racist, white boy racist. So this is something that, or these are other examples of how racism is subdefined and how it's used against white people and used also to excuse black people, and the standards are being lowered, all around for black people. And now I remember seeing the start of this, the very beginning of this in high school, where they started to do the gender thing. And if this is just with boys and girls, sort of the difference here. If girls didn't hand in their assignments on time or worksheets, various things you're required to. This would be, I don't know, probably fourth year high school, I guess, fifth year maybe. They didn't hand in their work. This actually would have been, it would have been fourth year high school. Didn't hand in all their assignments, that sort of stuff. Then they were offered. The teacher would do things like offer the girls, well, you can have another day or two to do the assignment, or would, if the girls say, oh, it's too difficult, I've got to do a lot of reading, I've got a lot of work to do the assignment, then some teachers would say, well, what would you like to do an assignment on? I'd like to do an assignment on the local hairdressing shop or something, or they'll just pick something that, okay, well, you do assignment on that then. But the rest of us had to do. Now, the boys weren't given that. It's okay. Now, some of the boys, and I was sitting in the front row of the class, some of the boys went to the teacher, the female teacher, on one subject and said, look, I think this was English maybe, said, look, this is not fair. If you're going to hand the assignments back to them and say, we'll give them more time or get them to optionally pick what subject they want to do or cover, and say, why can't they? Oh, well, they're girls, Oh, well, why not? And what are you trying to say, that you hate girls, are you? And that was the type of activist position that the teacher took. So it was quite okay to artificially stack the deck in order to favour a particular social engineering outcome, and this, of course, is written all over the these subsets of racism. I made a couple of notes about. Okay, now here's another one. Here's another one at university here. I've spoken to a lecturer about this, or who mentioned it, but didn't see it as a problem, by the way. The lecturer who's on board with the leftist sort of agenda said, oh, no, this is okay. Oh, nothing wrong with this. We're just equalising the outcomes. So this is a case where black students are offered, not only offered more time to do their assignments, and also are given a pass no matter what the quality of their work. They're always passed. But they're also offered, when the test or the exam comes, or even in doing the assignments, they're offered the option of going in front of a very politically correct committee that allegedly asks them some questions, and they can just verbally verbally sort of explain their understanding of the subject or the assignment subject matter, and send this committee, which is super politically correct, can then say, yeah, well, that's the best answer we've ever heard in the last in the whole universe ever, and give them a pass on that. So a lot of cutting slack here, but the according to the university, they're only fighting back against racism because there's this racism just somehow it's in the miasma. It's kind of can't quite define it, but anything that makes black people feel bad, or anything that doesn't guarantee them an equal outcome with white people, is racist. And that's really the ultimate definition of racism. If black people don't get an exactly equal outcome, any system, procedure, basis, process, exam, common standard, testing, anything at all, that is racism. So that really allows them to say that anything is racism. And they pretty much do. And again, this is used as a bludgeon to attack white people. Even going back in history, for example, it's only the whites' involvement with slavery that the activists have any interest in at all. Blacks enslaving each other, Arabs enslaving white people, enslaving black and white people actually, but enslaving black people. That doesn't matter. That doesn't count. It's only where white people do it. And there's a black activist that was doing some things of why, because he got something similar, like, why do we sort of focus on white people? Because today white people have the maximum social power. They're the richest societies and they have the maximum social power. So they're the ones, even though others, blacks enslaving each other and Arabs enslaving other, that's not good. But it's kind of how things are there in Africa, blacks enslaving each other and so on. So that's kind of, who cares? But because whites are the wealthiest and have the, as they perceive it, the maximum social power, then they should bear in proportion a far greater responsibility than any other society or group of people does. And then they launch into the everything is racism if there's a white person involved or anywhere near it. So even, and this is another one here, even having a competent, capable white person in, say, a workplace, even having a competent white person in the workplace, that is likely to make blacks feel bad, black workers or the colleagues of the white person feel bad because they can't meet that standard, or they're not that bright, or they're not that hardworking, and so on. So they so that makes the black people feel bad. That is therefore racism. Now, the lily-livered weakness of the people that roll over and go down like a sack of potatoes to this sort of blatant and absurd childlike intimidation is an issue in itself. But it really, I think, shows that no matter what white people do, there is no way out of this. No matter what concessions white people give, no matter how many apologies they may make, no matter how whether they give all black people quadruple PhDs, it doesn't matter. There is no amount that is ever going to placate this. And the childlike grasping of the black agitators on one side, but because the globalists will always be in there pushing it one step further, as that's one of their key devices for crushing white society. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.